I'm reading through the chat a little bit. Don't worry, be happy. Well, that is kind of the message today. All right? Because a lot of people are worried about the rapture, right? That is coming, you know, and it's all over the internet that a rapture is coming later on this month, you know, September is got all kinds of messages online about the rapture, and a lot of people are worried about it. And to some extent, you should be concerned about it, okay? You should be, because there is going to be an event that happens, and are you ready for it? Have you prepared for it? You know, the Bible tells us that we need to love the Lord our God with all our mind, body, and soul. So right there you have the three essences, the three aspects of self: the mind, the body, and the soul. All right. So is your mind purified and ready for a rapture? Is your body purified and ready for a rapture? And of course, is your soul, your spirit, ready? And so I'm going to be talking. If you're watching live right now, if you don't mind sending me some love, maybe some hearts, or some comments in the chat, I'd really appreciate it. It helps feed the energy so that we can get this message out to the world. All right. So I have prophetic dreams all the time, and some of them are truly, truly prophetic, and some of them are just lessons. And last night I had something of an in-between. It was prophetic, but it was a lesson. And sometimes when God teaches lessons, they can be scary. All right? So let me go ahead and while we're waiting for more people to get on this live, I want to tell some stuff about myself. I wrote the book, God's Master Plan for the Masses. And in that book, I talked about how God wrote his Paleo-Hebrew signature over the United States in a 7-year period, which began in 2017 and ended in 2024, okay? And with those 3 eclipses, the path of those 3 eclipses, they made the Aleph, which is a Paleo-Hebrew letter for the Alpha, and the Tav, which is the two solar eclipses that are total eclipses, because there was 3 in that 7-year period over the United States, but only 2 were total, and they made the Tav, okay? And so the Aleph and the Tav were written over the United States. Well, what does that mean, Wendy? I don't understand. The Aleph is the first letter in the Hebrew alphabet, and the Tav, or the Tau, is the last letter. God is the beginning, and he is the end, okay? And he wrote his Paleo-Hebrew signature over the United States, declaring that he is the beginning and he is the end, and that some amazing things were going to take place, okay, within a period of time. Thank you for the hearts. I really appreciate it. Okay? So God is in control of all things. All right? And I wrote that book back in, I published it in 2022. I am currently, I have another book, God's Master Plan for Salvation, and it is scheduled to be released later this month on September 21st. All right? And in that book, I talk about God's plan for salvation. Because if God is the beginning and he's the end, he knew everything from the very beginning, right? And so now we're coming into the fulfillment of that stuff. So yes, you can pre-order my book, God's Master Plan for Salvation. It is available on Amazon for pre-order, okay? There are links in the description box. Now I'm going to go ahead and, excuse me a second, I'm going to go ahead and begin with the dreams that I had last night. And like I said, these are both lessons and prophetic, all right? So I was in a house with a bunch of children, and I was the mother of this house. And I had a masculine with me who was the father figure, but I didn't really get a good look at him. We interacted throughout the dream, but I didn't get to see him, all right? It's like that he was blurred or something. It was like he was always with me, but I never really looked at him. Anyway, me, the mother, and this man who was the father were in charge of a lot of children, and we were leaving to go do something, all right? And I was concerned. I want to make sure that the children, they could run the house while he and I, my husband and I, left, okay? And there was one child that we were concerned for being a bad influence, and his name is, because God uses names to give me deeper meaning, okay? And his name means the spirit of hell, okay? I'm not going to say his name because he's actually a person I know, all right, from my childhood, and that's how God confirms dreams. So there is a hell-like spirit that was in the house that I was afraid if I left, he would cause problems, all right? So anyway, my husband and I decided to travel from central United States to New Mexico together. And while I was in New Mexico, I was concerned. I was like, well, what are we going to eat? Because it seemed like we were nomadic, okay? Like we chose to be nomadic. You know, kind of like the children of Israel when they left Egypt, right? They went into the wilderness for a period, and they had to just trust in God to provide, right? Well, that's what we were doing. We were going penniless. And it's like, well, what are we even going to eat? I mean, we knew our kids were taken care of, but what the heck are we going to do, right? So there's this idea of what are we going to do to provide for ourselves? And so here I was in New Mexico, and I was surrounded by all these beautiful, tall, purple flower plants, all right? I didn't know what they were in my dream. I was just like, oh, we'll eat these herbs. That's what we'll eat, and that's what will sustain us. And then all of a sudden, it was like there was a lot of people out in the field with us with these long purple flowers, right? And we saw a missile or maybe a comet or something. It had hit, and everyone was looking at the effect of this. But I was busy looking in a different direction. I didn't actually see what fell, whether it was a comet or a bomb or whatever. But there was a commotion, so I turned to look, and it looked kind of like a mushroom cloud, all right? Except for it wasn't really, I wasn't afraid of it as if it was a nuclear bomb. I just saw a big mushroom cloud, okay? And I didn't see fire or anything like that. And it wasn't even quite as big as a mushroom cloud. It just kind of resembled it a little bit, all right? So I'm seeing that off in the distance. I was like, what the heck is going on? This isn't a dream. And then all of a sudden, maybe a few miles from where I don't know, maybe just, it was maybe a few miles from where I was at, okay? I could see it clearly. It must have been massive to be a few miles from where I was at, and yet I could see it this clearly. But it was as if the earth opened up and a giant spaceship in the shape of an old boat lifted up from the earth, and it lifted up very slow, and then the jets that were raising it, they turned, okay, so that the force from those jets can change direction or whatever. And the moment that they were in place to where they needed to be, then it took off. I mean, it was like, shoo! And then all of a sudden, I felt this overwhelming fear come over me. I mean, it was like, I literally, for a couple of seconds in the dream, I was like, ah! And I was started to run. I started to run for like a couple of yards. I was like, what am I even doing? Why am I running? And that was the end of the dream. So, this has deep, deep meaning. Now remember, we're supposed to love the Lord our God with our mind, body, and spirit. And we need to purify our temple, mind, body, and spirit. That is our thoughts. That is our physical body, our temple, which is the temple of God, and also our spirit. Okay? And that is what this rapture dream was about. And when I woke up, I was like, what on earth? What on earth? I was like, what is the deal? There was those purple flowers meant something. So I went on a search to try to figure out, because this is how God communicates with me. It's through puzzle pieces, okay? And so, first of all, what does this? I was in New Mexico. Of all places, why New Mexico? Well, I did a name search origin for that. And Mexico means, number one, moon. All right? Moon. And we are coming up on 2 eclipses this month in September. We've got the lunar eclipse on September 7th. Okay? And we've got the solar eclipse, which happens down in New Zealand, in that area, in the Pacific. That happens on September 21st. Okay. Now, my book, God's Master Plan for Salvation, it actually is timed with that. My book is released on September 21st, okay? So right there, Mexico has the idea of both the moon and something else. It can also mean within the belly, within the navel, all right? So our belly down here is actually very important for gut health, okay? Yes, gut health is very important for our lives. All right. If we want to make our bodies pure and holy, then we have to have a healthy gut. I mean, we're just, not everything is spiritual. I know that a lot of churches and stuff, they focus solely on the spiritual aspect and they don't look into the physical. All right. But we're going to talk about how the spiritual also affects the physical. And they've all got, like the Trinity, they all work together, mind, body, and spirit, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, okay? So, if you got God as the Godhead, right, that would be your mind. You got the Son as the body. He says that he is the body, right? So, he would represent our physical body, and then you got the Spirit, the Holy Spirit. Okay, so the 3. And we need to have that kind of equilibrium within ourselves, a healthy mind, body, and spirit. So now we know that the New Mexico, is getting a new healthy belly, okay? And this, that purple flower plays a big role. And let me tell you that after the dream, I was like, what flowers are purple like that? This is what I was thinking. Well, lavender is kind of, that kind of looked like lavender that I saw, but it wasn't. And so then I thought biblically, it just kind of popped in my head, hyssop. Isn't hyssop purple? So I went on Google, and yes, hyssop is purple. So I wanted to see if hyssop was native to Native America, to New Mexico. It is not native to New Mexico, but there is something called the giant hyssop that is native. And see, these flowers that I saw were very big. They were kind of like, those reeds that are by riverbanks, how they're real tall and they have that really strong cone at the top. That's what this kind of looked like. And so these giant hyssops, which are truly native to New Mexico, are from, they're there, okay? So the idea of hyssop is there. Now, the reason why they're called giant hyssop is because they are very close relatives to the hyssop, okay? They look the same, they're just giant. And so I want to know what were the health benefits of this giant hyssop. And it turns out they have lots of health benefits. One of them is digestion. All right. Now remember, Mexico means in the belly. And this hyssop, I said in the dream, I said, well, what are we going to eat? And I was told, or at the moment I did that, and say, oh, well, we'll just eat these herbs. That is when the cataclysmic event happened and the ship rose, okay, and shot off, okay? After. So that meant that getting a healthy gut is very, very important at this time. And not just at this time, at all the time, but specifically this time, okay? Because you gotta purge your body of impurities, okay? So, anyway, and God was telling me that this was really important. Now, I already know all this stuff, but I'm not the most disciplined when it comes to my diet, all right? I'll just be honest with you. I'm not the most disciplined. And that's why when the bomb hit and the spaceship took off and I was confused, that's why God let me feel a little bit of fear. And I was running around, what do I do? Okay? Because God is telling me, Wendy, you need to clean up your system. You need to do it. So, and what is that? Cleaning up my gut with hyssop. Now, there is a lot of passages in the Bible that talk about hyssop. All right. So, what did they use hyssop for in the Bible? Well, it was first used when God told the children of Israel to paint the doorposts with blood from the lamb using hyssop. All right. Now, hyssop is known to be a purifier. It has always been known to be a purifier. Okay. And so they were using that blood to purify that home. It was symbolic. All right. And God likes obedient people. And so guess what I'm going to be doing? I am going to be ordering myself some hyssop tea and drinking it because I'm obedient and God is telling me that this is important for my purification, right? So, my bodily purification. All right, what else was hyssop used for? I got a list of it. Oh, so later when God was giving the instructions after the 10 Commandments, he said in situations where you're dealing with a leper or you're dealing with the purification of a home, they used hyssop, okay, in those situations. So to purify a leper and to purify a home. So it's, once again, the idea of cleansing, all right? Here's another one. when God gave the instructions about the water of purification and how to make the water of purification, he took a red heifer. He had the priest take a red heifer, kill it, burn it whole, right, with cedar and hyssop. Okay? Now, the cedar and the hyssop, they were important components to that, because cedar is a purifier, hyssop is a purifier, and they were making the ashes that would go into water for the purification water. Now, why did they burn that cow, the red heifer, whole? It's because it had to be burned with its fat. So that fat leaked down into the ashes and became soap. Okay, and if you did not watch my video yesterday, the one where you have to dig deep, definitely check that one out, because I'm talking about the soapy water. All right, and so God is showing this hyssop because he wanted me to embellish and share more of what I know. Now, I go into even more detail about this stuff in my book, God's Master Plan for Salvation. But God has given me these dreams so I can share the idea with you now, okay? At least the basic concepts. So, yes, that the fat of the cow went down into the purifying, the trace elements of the cedar and the hyssop, and it created ash in the form of lye, because it also had the cow's fat, okay? So, that lye was added to water and became the fuller's soap, spoken in Malachi, okay? And again, I talked about this yesterday in my live stream. If you are not familiar with any of this stuff, if this isn't the kind of Sunday school lessons you're used to, if you want to learn more that goes beyond traditional Sunday school lessons, then please subscribe, okay? Because I'm not affiliated to any one denomination. God took me out of the church to teach me things himself, okay? I had to learn this stuff through God's instructions, okay? So, anyway, that is another use of the hyssop. It's the purifying water of the red heifer, all right? Now, what else did we... and then there is also the passage that in the New Testament where they used the hyssop, because it's kind of a long pole, right? They put a sponge that was dipped in vinegar and put it to Yeshua, Jesus' mouth, so that he could drink from it if he chose to, all right? That's what they did. And a lot of people are becoming more and more aware that vinegar is a very important part of purifying our body, all right? So, now, with all of that, let me share a Bible passage. Now, I have reinterpreted the Bible. God, this is one of the projects that God had me do. The name of my interpretation is Sword of the Spirit, okay? And from there, let me read a verse from Psalms 51. It says, "Purge me with hyssop, and I will be clean. Wash me, and I will become whiter than snow." Okay? Now, what did I say? I said, we're going to eat all this hyssop. That's what we're going to eat as we go on this journey into the unknown. Because me and my guy who was with me, we didn't know what to expect. We were going, like the children of Israel leaving Egypt. You know, they didn't know what to expect in the wilderness. They were going blinded. So me and this man, whoever he is, we were going into the wilderness together, and we were instructed, or the dream instructs us, that we're going to eat hyssop. We were purifying ourselves, mind, body, and spirit, okay? So, that is the significance of that part of the dream. But what about that that spaceship that looked like a boat, a giant boat. Well, that would be linked to the story of Noah. God raised up the ship, okay? He raised up the ship from the flood waters, all right? And what were we just talking about? We were talking about how hyssop was used with the burning of the red heifer to make not flood waters, but purification waters, okay? And this is all spiritual speaking stuff, okay? We're talking about symbolism. So that's what it was for. Well, what did God use Noah's flood for? To purify, okay? To purify the earth. And so the spaceship that was like a boat went up, all right? It was lifted up by the spiritual waters of that hyssop. Okay, and anyway, I'm just telling you, these are all symbolic things. It is very important to purify your body, mind, body, and spirit. So, in the book of Lucas, it says, he says, like in the days of Noah, like in the days of Noah, so too it will be during the days of the Son of Man. They ate, they drank, and married wives. They were given in marriage until the day of Noah entered the ark. Then the flood came and destroyed them all. Now that is scary stuff. Very, very scary stuff. I understand the idea of being destroyed. That is terrifying, right? No one wants to be destroyed. Change of any type is destructive. Okay? Now we can change for the good, we can change for the bad, but change, whichever way you go, is destructive. There's a passage in the book of Daniel that talks about how, I don't have the scripture in front of me, I'm sorry, where it talks about they will say peace and then there will be sudden destruction, right? There will be peace and then sudden destruction. Well, guess what? If you live a life of war, right? But then you suddenly have peace, good or bad, it's destructive. You destroyed that lifestyle of war, okay? And so, yes, peace is going to be destructive. All right? Because you're getting rid of that warlike mentality, that state of mind that is in constant war. And you're entering into a time of peace. All right? Now, so I don't want you to be afraid of any of this. Did you know that everyone in the church is waiting for the new Jerusalem to descend from the Father, right? Did you know that the word Jerusalem means teachings of peace? And so the new teachings of peace that descend from the Father, they are going to be destructive because it is change. That's why my channel is called the Winds of Change, okay? So what are we changing? We are changing people's minds. We are helping me and God, okay? Because God gives me dreams, I share it. If you want to learn what God is trying to tell the people, then subscribe because I'm tapped in, okay? I drink the waters from the source, all right? So anyway, yes, change. It's scary. But in order to have peace, we've got to let go of that warring mentality, okay? And fear is one of those things we have to let go of. So many people are afraid of the rapture. So many people are afraid of any kind of change, all right? Even Sorry, I had a phone call and I had to cancel it. Anyway, yeah, people are afraid of even good change. All right. So now I want to talk about another dream that I had last night. I was working in a grocery store. Now, groceries are meant to feed people, right? Just like Jesus said, I am the bread, I am the wine. He was feeding people. I was working in a grocery store in a grocery store, a grocery store in this dream last night. It was after the Noah one, okay? And in that dream, I saw something strange. It was very weird. It was on the lower shelf of an end cap, and it was meat that had been skinned, that was still on its bone. And I know that that is really weird for here, us in the United States, you know. In other countries, they eat like the head of sheep and different things like that, okay? But that's what it was. It was the head and shoulder, not of sheep, but of a wolf. And I looked at that and I was like, is that a wolf? The head and shoulder. And it was at my feet. It was like on the lower shelf, okay? So what does that mean? Well, if it's down there by my feet, it's probably not a good thing, right? So there is a passage in the Bible that talks about how some shepherds are like wolves in sheep's clothing, all right? Now, this wolf was skinned. There was no skin on it. It was just the head and shoulders, okay? It was the bust of a wolf that had no skin. And so anyway, it was exposed. So this dream that I'm going to tell you about is about exposing corruption in the church on what people are being fed. Because a lot of people are being fed fear, okay? And untruths. There's a lot of untruths out there, all right? So anyway, that was the first part of this dream. And in the next part, I had a man approach me that was trying to sell me a futuristic recorder. I mean, not recorder, record player. It's been so long. It was a futuristic record player, okay? And he was trying to sell it to me. And it was used, but he was still trying to sell it to me. And I was listening to his sales pitch, all right? Now, what does a record player do? It loops around and around and around, right? We as individuals, we are listening to the same messages over and over and over. All right, we have the same, but God's wanting to bring new teachings, all right? Not those old messages, new teachings. So he's trying to sell me this used record player about the future. So it's a futuristic message that's really kind of an outdated perspective, okay? Anyway, so as I was listening to his sales pitch, one of the cashiers warned me and said, "Hey, you don't need to buy it from him. You can find that on the shelf, and he's trying to sell you even more than what is you can buy it new on the shelf." So this was showing that there are a lot of, what were we talking about? Shepherds who are sharing, it looks like a message of the future, but it's an outdated message of the future, okay? There are a lot of people like that. So anyway, and when I saw that, when she told me that he was I told him, no thanks, I'm not interested. And then he went from me to try to sell that message to another person. And that, a customer. Now, I was working at the grocery store, and I was like, No, no, no. You got to go. You got to go. You're not welcome here. You and your outdated. I didn't say that. I'm telling you. I told him, you need to take that and get out of here. What was I telling him to do? Take that outdated message about the future and go away. Okay? So he was not wanting to leave, but I stood in authority. And I said, you got to go. So, he didn't want to. Now, he was backing up closer and closer to the door, but he didn't want to leave. And I said, 1, like a mother, okay, like a strong mother. 2, and he knew that if I got to 3, I was calling the cops, all right? There was like a telepathic connection. I was telling him, buddy, I'm fixing it. Call the cops on you. So anyway, he decided to leave, but as he was at the door, he says, I know where your car is. Like he was threatening me, okay? Anyway, now in this dream, I was not the owner of the dream. I was just a lowly, like, stalker or something, okay? Shelf stalker. But I took charge because I recognized that he was a threat to the store, to what people were being fed. Do you see what I'm saying? The messages that are going out. He was a threat. That same old message, about the future, keeps going around and around. Here we go. It's an old message about the future, and it's got to go. All right? Because God has new revelation. He has new understanding. And I talk about it in my book, God's Master Plan for Salvation. So be sure to pre-order it. It's going to be released on September 21st of this month. Okay? So anyway, after dealing with him, I went to the dairy section and I started to close it off. All right? And there was like a door to this particular store had dairy in glass shelves, like a glass casket type thing, and you open it and that's where your milk was at. And so there was a backstock room behind it, and that door to the dairy section, the backstock area, I blocked off. And as I was blocking it off, there was one person that zoomed in because he wanted to get a hold of that milk, okay? He wanted some of that milk. Now, I didn't get a good look at this person, but he was like, shoo, he got in there, excuse me, he got in there before I shut off that milk case, okay? Now, what's the symbolism of that? We are nurtured by the milk. In the book of Genesis 39, Bereshit, the beginnings. So in that book, chapter 39, Yeshariel, Israel, aka Jacob, he gave blessings to his son. One of them was to Judah, Yehuda, and he talks about the importance of milk and teeth. Okay. Now, one of the things I forgot to say in yesterday's dream, I'm sorry, I just remembered when that boy and I were brushing were at the water spigot outside. Oh man, I missed it yesterday. I forgot. We were brushing our teeth. But God is telling me, hey, Wendy, here's some more clues. You forgot to talk about this. Why? Your teeth, what you speak. It's a very important what the things you say, okay? Because what you speak, what is this dream about? It's about shepherds who are wolves in sheep's clothing and how their skin is being peeled off of them, okay? So this shepherd, this worker at the store, he ran into there to get milk. Why? Because the milk makes your teeth white and it makes you speak truth. That's the symbolism of that. All right? So, after that, I went outside to my vehicle. And I remember that guy threatened me. Okay? He threatened me. So, when I went out to my vehicle, it was dark outside. And but when I went in, the inside of my vehicle was like an RV. And I saw a baby in there that had a dirty diaper, and I chose to clean that baby. Okay, there was a bath in this RV, and I took that baby and I cleaned him. So what does that symbolize? That man, that shepherd that wanted to keep sharing the same message about the future, the same old message about the future, I was cleaning him. Okay, so that, why? So that shepherds, messengers out there, people that want to share new messages about the future, they've been cleansed. Okay, they've been cleansed. I was giving them a bath. I was baptizing him. I was using the holy water to baptize him with a new message. So God has a new message of the rapture that he wants out. And if you want to know more about that, well, go ahead and subscribe to this channel, because apparently God is giving me dreams to talk about this stuff, all right? And also to promote my book, God's Master Plan for Our Salvation. If you watched to the end, I really appreciate you. Be sure to like and subscribe to this channel. Post a comment. Hey, if you've got thoughts or concerns, let me know. All right, and maybe God will give me a dream about it. All right. Anyway, my name is Wendy, and we're all living in the winds of change.